Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm with Sister Halima today for our interview. So, Sister Halima, can you tell us more about yourself and your art journey? When did it start exactly?
Okay, Walaikum Assalam. Thank you for having me on. My art journey in embroidery started during COVID, so going back to 2020 now. I had just finished university and I had about 3 or 4 months, and it was lockdown, so we weren't able to go out and do much. And I think this is when I started dabbling into a lot of new different hobbies and just finding things to try and fill my time. And one of those things was embroidery. So that's when I first started doing it. I'd never done much embroidery before. I had done textiles GCSE back when I was in high school, but that was as far as it went with like any sort of stitching and handwork or anything. I spent most of that summer really getting into it, like building my skill sets, learning lots of different techniques, trying out lots of different projects. And then I started work, and work just took over and took priority. Embroidery is one of those things where it's very slow, very intentional. You can't like rush it or anything. And I just couldn't find the time to like fit it in with work. And then I would say a couple of years later, I sort of got back into it again. And this is when I really started to tailor my embroidery towards Islam. I think before that, it was a lot more creative, more like floral, scenic pieces that I was creating. And then a couple of years ago, I sort of shifted and I really wanted to make pieces that you could have like a beautiful Islamic reminder in your house. And whenever you looked at it, it brought you that comfort or you could resonate with it. And this is when I started to incorporate some, whether it's dhikr or quotes. So then I sort of leaned into there a bit more. And then I would say about 8 or 9 months ago, I came across Goldwork Embroidery, which I'd never come across before. So this was quite different. Before I was doing a lot of like with threads, like your standard embroidery threads that you'd see, do lots of different designs and do some calligraphy and stuff with it. And then I came across the Goldwork and I was like, wow, that's so beautiful, so intricate. I got a book on it, started learning all about it. And that's when I started to shift into doing more Goldwork. And I hadn't come across Islam and Goldwork inspired pieces. Goldwork's very like traditional for like couture designs, or if you look at pieces of like the royal weddings, they have a lot of like goldwork and hand embroidery on there. But I'd never seen someone entwine it with Islam. I think that's where my like passion came from it. And I was like, no, I think you can create some really exquisite pieces. And they're so beautiful, but then tying that Islam to it. And I think that's where my passion and interest comes, and that's what I'm focused on right now with my work.
Amazing, tabarakallah. That makes me wonder as well. Can you tell us more about your work that you are exhibiting for this exhibition?
So the piece for this exhibition I called Qalb Salim. Um, I named it that because it's a really beautiful quote from the Quran, and it says that only those with a pure heart will be entered into Jannah. And I think sometimes, especially nowadays with social media, a lot of things it's on the outside and people can judge and be quick to say things. And I think Islam just, and that quote for me just takes me back to it's your intention, regardless of how people may take it. At the end of the day, that's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I do think your heart is something which is a journey. It's not something that you're born with a good heart or a bad heart. It's not black and white. I think for me, it's a lot of about improving yourself, knowing that you have weaknesses, you have strengths, and then nurturing that to get it into a point where, inshallah, through dhikr, through Quran, through your salah, through Islam, you can build and strengthen that in the way that it should. And I think that's what this piece is mainly inspired by. Um, I think when you look at it, you may not see it, but if I just share my interpretation of it, it might give a bit more of an insight. So it's a circular piece. In the center of it, it's got Qalb Salim written in the center, and then it's filled with all this different gold work. And all the techniques are very different. So you have some that are raised, some that are flat, some that are quite intricate. And to me, that represents the different parts of your heart. There are parts that are more stronger in your personality that will come out to others, and they can be the raised bits. There are parts that are a lot more softer and calm, and only people close to you may see that part of you. There's parts of it that I've left blank intentionally because we're always growing, we're always learning and expanding. It's not like a fixed thing. And I sort of incorporated that into my design. I hope as a whole, it can sort of represent your heart and the journey that you're on with it within Islam. And the end goal is to have that Qalb Salim, that sound heart, that pure heart that inshallah will enter us into Jannah one day, inshallah. But yeah, that's what my inspiration behind it is. And whenever I look at it or when anyone else looks at it, I hope that they feel the same way and they realize it's not black and white. We're all on a journey, and it stems from your heart and your intentions at the end of the day, regardless of what you might struggle with. We all have different tests and trials, and that may come across differently for us, but inside your heart, you nurture that, and inshallah, it will lead your path to Jannah. So that's my inspiration behind it.
SubhanAllah. It's actually pretty much a beautiful inspiration as well, because we always think that we need to be perfect, even when it comes to, religion and everything. And then we
Yeah.
realize, we can't be perfect, but, it's something that we're striving to do. Allah doesn't look for those that are perfect. He's looking for those that make mistakes and turn back to him. So
Yeah, that keep coming back to him, that consistency. Yeah, definitely.
absolutely. So that leads me on to my next question. Can you describe what drives your creative practice? Is it something about art that makes it feel essential or meaningful? Something as purpose and not just simply a hobby.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing for me is being able to tie something that I like having hobbies. I think it's nice to have things outside of work and your responsibilities that are just for you. And I think it's really important to do that. And I think that's something that maybe I didn't appreciate as much when I was younger, but as I've gotten older into adult life, I do really value that time outside of work or family life just to take time for yourself. So for me, embroidery is one of those things. It's one of those things that you can't rush. You have to take it really, really slowly, very, very intentionally. And I think it forces me to slow down, which is quite a contrast to lots of things in the world right now, like especially with social media and doing everything quickly. And it's just the opposite of that. Like you cannot rush each stitch that you have to do. So it's very different to my normal day-to-day life. In my day-to-day life, I'm not creative at all in my day job. So for me, this is like a completely different outlet. My inspiration and purpose, I think, is driven by the Islam part of it. I don't think I would have stuck with it as much if I hadn't linked that to it. Just because that's what gives you the purpose and motivates you. Um, so yeah, that's where it mainly comes from. And yeah, I just enjoy the freedom with it. I think you can start with a blank canvas and then you have threads or goldwork and whatever it is, and you turn it into something that's so or can be so captivating and beautiful to look at, as well as holding meaning and purpose behind it. And I really, really like that. I like that. Yeah, you take something and your time and effort then goes to show for something that's like, wow. But yeah, that's what the main thing is.
Amazing, tabarakallah. My next question is, was there any big or small moment that kind of defined you as an artist? Something where it kind of shaped who you are today?
I don't know if I consider myself an artist. I consider this a hobby for me. I think this exhibition is sort of branching out into that a bit. Um, I don't think I have a significant moment, if I'm honest. It's something that I've slowly grown and fallen in love with over time. I've been able to explore different techniques, find what works for me, find what doesn't, and then create pieces that just are really meaningful to me. And it's usually linked to like my own personal experiences. And that's one of the things that I love about it. I think I read a book, and it was called The Sound Heart, The Intelligent Heart, something along those lines. And I remember when I read that title, I was thinking, intelligent heart. Like I never associate intelligence with the heart. It's always a brain. I think that's the Western way of thinking. And I saw that book and it was an Islamic, and I was like, okay, I need to read this book. And then when I read it and it spoke about how important the heart is in the Quran and the emphasis on it, I was like, wow, subhanAllah, I never thought of it in that way. And that's what inspired me behind this piece that I'm working on right now. So yeah, inspiration comes from anywhere. It can come from a book, it can come from a conversation, just my own personal experience of what I'm going through. It's a mix of lots of things. I don't think there's like one pivotal moment for me.
I definitely agree. Everyone has like a different experience. Some people it's that big moment. Some of them it's like gradual, subhanAllah. So
Yeah.
it's lovely to hear the diverse experiences. Um, so I know like you don't really consider yourself an artist yet, but have you ever felt any tension with being a Muslim and then doing these kind of things on the side in terms of art? Have you ever felt a little bit of friction or like tension between those two, especially in the West?
I keep them very separate. I think for me, Islam, outwardly, yeah, people can tell I'm Muslim, you wear the hijab and everything. But for me, my religion is very, very personal and intentional, and that's where my inspiration for my pieces come behind. So I do keep it very, I don't really talk about it too much, if I'm honest. I created an Instagram page a couple of years ago, and I was surprised people wanted to actually buy some of my pieces. Um, but no, I think they definitely can. It's just people. I think when people think of art and Islam, for me anyway, I think of like calligraphy or like Arabic calligraphy. I think there's so much more to it than that. Like you can take what could be considered not Islamic and turn it into something that is with your inspiration behind it, like I've done with gold work. I've never come across gold work from it's never I've never come across pieces that are traditional to Islam. It's usually like Western stuff or um English history. That's mainly where it comes from. Um, but I think it's nice. It gives you the freedom to explore and try new things. I don't think I've ever experienced any friction, but maybe that's just because I've not really put myself out there too much with it yet. So, yeah, that's all I can say for now.
That's understandable. Um, so that leads me to my next question. In terms of the exhibition, what do you hope others experience or understand about you as a person and your work, inshallah khair?
I think one of the biggest things is using goldwork embroidery and tying it with Islam, and that being something that you can share with people and show that from just pieces of metal and wires, you can create something that's quite beautiful. I've never come across that before. I don't think it's a traditional, when you think of Islamic art, or I never thought of goldwork and embroidery with it. So I'm hoping that it can shine a light on that for people. I hope it can inspire people to show that there's so many different forms of art out there, and embroidery is one of them. And I hope it can encourage and inspire other people as well to take it up because I've found a lot of enjoyment in it. It's very, very peaceful, very slow. You can't rush it. And yeah, I've just found it really beneficial for me and very different. So I hope other people can see that as well. And then with the piece, um, I think I hope that when people see it, it's quite captivating and they're like, oh wow, what is it? And then it wants them to ask questions, be like, okay, what does it mean? What does it represent? Where does it come from? So I hope people can get that from it as well. And hopefully they can relate to it in even if it's a small amount or if they can fully relate to the piece, I would really like that as well.
Inshallah khair. So my last question for you is, can you tell us your favorite quote?
Yeah, so one of my favorite quotes, which I think ties quite well with embroidery, is it's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, and it's the most consistent of deeds, even if they're the smallest, are the most beloved to Allah. And this is something that I apply with my deen as well, but also with embroidery. So embroidery is a very slow thing. You have to be consistent with it to get through to a piece. The piece I'm working on now, I've been working on since October. So in order to get to a point where it's finished, it is taking its time. And I love that hadith because I think it's you're not putting too much pressure on yourself. Like you start small, regardless of what it is, whether it's something to do with the Quran, a small habit you want to pick up. Don't pressurize yourself to think this is the end goal and I've got to jump there straight away. And I think for me and my journey with Islam, it's always been like that. Like whenever I wanted to improve on anything, always start small to the point where it becomes a habit and then build on it. And I think for me, that's worked the best. Anything that I've sort of jumped into, I've never been consistent and stayed with it. Whereas if I've started small and knowing that Allah values that more than that big deed because it shows the consistency. You're just turning up every single day. You're doing it. You're putting in, even if it's a small amount of effort. And I think that correlates really well with embroidery because you can't having to continue to do a little bit all the time. You can't rush it. You can't quickly do a piece. There's only so how fast you can go with putting a needle through and threads through. So yeah, that's one of my favorite hadiths and quotes.
Amazing, tabarakallah. Jazakallah khair for coming on and doing this interview.
Jazakallah for having me. I've really enjoyed it and I can't wait for the exhibition, inshallah, to see all the other artists you guys have got lined up.
Inshallah. Just gonna stop recording.